Unexpected. This is a word which runs through much of what I'm going to be sharing. It's something I've been thinking about. Unexpected. I'm told that in today's culture, it's very unexpected that a man will become a practicing Christian unless he at least has some memories of faith as a child. I'm told that the road from no faith to faith can sometimes be difficult. This has been my own experience, and my overloaded bookshelves stand as a reminder of just how difficult a thing it was at first for me. In fact, I'm not sure whether myself and my wife Bonnie now just live in one brick bookcase with a front door on it. We've both been on this journey together over the last several years, and our little cottage isn't exactly the biggest. Moving to a small town like this to be nearer to the countryside and to the rhythms of natural existence has certainly helped me in my faith. A trickling stream and seeing the stars shining on a night without light pollution is a priceless thing, and a good selection of pubs is always a bonus. I don't know about you, but I've found that most people believe in something when pressed on this question. Surely the universe has to have a source, a cause. Surely it tends towards something, towards a good, a purpose, even if bad things happen to good people. And once we're told that God isn't exactly the white-bearded figure depicted on the Sistine Chapel, and that the Garden of Eden is not a scientific account, but a poetic one, I believe, despite the books that I've read and the hours of podcasts I've listened to, we probably won't struggle to believe in God. God as truth, the author of the Big Bang, if you like. And what do you think of this sentence, ladies and gents? Your being increases in the measure that you give it away. Because I thought about that. It's unexpected, isn't it? The adverts, the culture says it's all about getting more money, get this thing. But this says you give and then somehow receive more. It's in giving that we receive, maybe. The law of the gift. Your being increases in the measure that you give it away. Is that true? Who you are increases, the essence of you, your spirit, your soul, the thing which our science has not yet invented a device to measure and so cannot speak of. Our essence, our being increases in the measure that we give it up. Here you go. I share this. Perhaps it's just an ideal. If it is, it's not a universal ideal, is it? I found that out for myself. These ideas, these values we dearly cherish, they have a source. And it's a sentence which I think summarizes the teachings, the example, and the ethics of a man who walked among us long ago. Your being increases in the measure that you give it away. I think it's so true. It's why I'm here. It's truer than true. On every deep and permeating level, our souls soar upon hearing it. It's the sun on your face after a long cold winter. It has a source, it has a name, and it's pulled me here for confirmation into the church at 30 years old. Because the idea that that one man in that middle window, that carpenter who taught on the fringes of the Roman Empire above all of history's rulers, champions, and kings, is the most famous man in human history. The idea that this man, who was jeered at, beaten, and nailed to an instrument of torture so cruel and callous it should almost be unspeakable, the idea that he is at the very center of our civilization is so profoundly unexpected. And perhaps not to the desert people steeped in prophesying words shining on ancient Jewish scrolls, people who had foreseen that a man would come, but to the wider world, unexpected. The idea that you drove or walked past 2 or 3 of those crosses on another church or on a gravestone today to get here, just an instrument of torture 2,000 years ago, is so extremely, incredibly unexpected. Yet this is the way things are. And we forget, and I forgot. Our entire culture is in the business of forgetting this, isn't it? Because many of us have lived through a period of decadence thanks to the comfort that his Christian ethics and our science has afforded us. But the great C.S. Lewis said that we mistake our privileges living here for instincts. We mistake our privileges for human instincts. Again, I found out many of the things we call civil or just being kind do have a source, a wellspring from whence they are constantly replenished in a text, in a figure who sets the very benchmark. It's often fun to rebel. We glamorize rebels, and you can happily rebel in a safe culture which still holds up selflessness, service, family, community, and forgiveness. But should I still rebel when these things cease to be held up in our society, in the way that we live? There has been a great shift, yet the fingerprints of this man can still be seen everywhere he is touched, even if many of us have ceased to see them, like the dry stone walls we in Yorkshire walk past all the time, forgetting when and by whom they were first put there. Now, the good news is we only need reminding, because Christ's mark leaves an indelible glow, even if we take it for granted at this moment in our history. But seek, and you will find. But how did I get here? I'm nothing at all if curious to know upon what all of this depends, on what all of this turns. The historian Tom Holland recently wrote of how Jesus of Nazareth started a movement which remade the world. It remade the world. He certainly started to remake my life. How unexpected. Holland said that if human rights, if they exist, which we all doubtless believe they do, depend upon an act of faith tied up with Christian belief. And paraphrasing, he said that if one takes the leap to believe in human rights, then one may as well believe that Jesus rose from the grave. They both depend upon an act of faith, nothing more, nothing less. Many people would not know what to do with that today, but it's true. Jesus overturned the entire global order of that age through what he did and said. That's history, all new to me until a few years ago. Most of his disciples, the early saints, were killed. They said they saw him alive again. The mighty Roman Empire, which killed Christ as though he meant nothing, then turned and followed him. The biggest turning of the tables in human history. It happened. How unexpected. Time itself now turns on the date in which it's believed this teacher was born, the year 0. His crucifixion and assumed resurrection was around 33 AD. It did not have to be this way, and I had never previously thought about any of this. There is a darkness in this world, which is why I came to this story and came to look to Christ afresh, for he seems to have the answers. I don't believe it's enough to simply try to be a nice person. Our science cannot measure evil, but we know it when we see it. I think we need to remember that darkness can seep its way into all of us, into me, in small ways or large. All of our enduring stories are about heroes who overcome the darkness in favor of the light. The Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, even films like The Shawshank Redemption. More than fantasy, they all speak truth and point back to his story if we think about it. Sacrifice your power, your being for others. Love others. Will the good of everyone around you. These notions conquered the hardest of men. They turned the fate of empires. But are they true? That's a question I wrestled with to get here. You will know a tree by its fruits, Christ said, whether or not something is true or false by the fruit it grows. History's shown to me that there is no greater transformative power on earth than the way of Christ. Perhaps we could be a little bit less embarrassed in standing up for just how transformative it has been. The very idea of the sanctity of the human person was fully realized through Christ. And so it became clear to me that extraordinary fruits have come from this tree. Perhaps the tree they put him on. The tree of crucifixion you see every day above that old church on the corner where you live. The tree on which he turned evil into good. I am the way, the truth, and the life. Jesus is purported to have said that 2,000 years ago, and his very model still stands true, even in an age of unbelief. We see him in everything we admire. Heaven and earth shall pass away, Jesus said, but my words will never pass away. How true. Much has changed in 2,000 years, but here they are, in the Bibles here, in your favorite films, everywhere. The story we still operate under. The firefighter who runs into a burning building, the woman who feeds and gives shelter to the displaced, the one who is brave and thinks not foremost of themselves, the one who gives. Whatever you do for the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, Jesus said, you do for me, because your being increases in the measure that you give it away. This quote is actually from Bishop Robert Barron, a renowned American scholar and evangelist. And it's true on every level. To truly live is to give. Giving brings about the new. Parents know that better than anyone. Me and my wife are due to have a baby next month and are readying ourselves for that. It's been said that Christ, by the criterion of his own being, sets the world right when we listen, when we mold our lives around him. And as I'm confirmed, I keep thinking of exactly what faith is. And for whatever my perspective is worth, I would urge all people, old and young, to think, study, and pray over exactly that question. What is faith in the risen Jesus Christ? What is faith ultimately in God? And what does it mean today? In a world which seems to have been unmoored, so much depends upon that question. And though, like everything else, it's unexpected, in many ways it's the quest, the adventure for our time. All quests demand bravery by those who step out onto the open road. Because the kingdom of heaven is within you. Or so Jesus Christ said. Perhaps heaven's not just a dream, a wish. The kingdom of heaven is within your midst. Radiantly so. Each of us here or watching online. Because I've found it's not merely a comforting old story, as the skeptic may say, for it's a difficult story and path to tread in a world which now bids us to stay and play on our own pleasure island. But paradoxically, in Christ's own words, pick up your cross and follow me, we find there is a profound assurance. For we see all around us quite plainly that to give is the only way to truly be. Thank you.